I always tell people that you have to be willing to do whatever is needed to achieve your goal. Your goal. And the reason for that is if you don't do it, you are going to be the one that's going to feel the consequences of that. You're going to feel that regret. I hate regret, right? It haunts me. It ain't going to be the people or the person that stopped you from achieving the goal because they succeeded at what they were trying to do. Story time. In 2010, I was closing out my associate's degree. I was going to Coastline Community College. I was kind of pushing through my classes. But if you don't know, I hate math. Full disclaimer. It's just something about it that doesn't compute, right? There's two things that my son does better than me. He can swim and he knows math a lot better than I do. And, well, three, Spanish. He speaks Spanish. I don't, right? I purposely put math towards the end because I was hoping maybe I would get to this class and the math requirement would come up and I just wouldn't need it. Maybe it would just go away. I'll be good. Or I just wasn't going to take it and I was just going to be done. It was not going to be an associate's. That would have been kaput right then. But I went and talked to my advisor and she was like, hey, you got two options. Option one, you go take the placement exam. They can place you out of math or they can place you at college algebra and you'll be good to go. I said, what's option two? She said, we'll talk about that after you try option one. I went to go take this placement exam and I tried to use my phone and the lady was like, put your phone up. It's not allowed. I said, ma'am, I'll give you $200. If you if you just let me use, she said no. So I went, took the placement exam. I knew I bombed it. And I went back and I talked to my advisor and I said, yeah, that didn't work out. She said, okay, well, option two, you can go take a statistics class at Vincennes University. They have a non-degree math class that you can take and it doesn't require a placement. I looked at her and I said, well, you don't understand what I just told you. Math isn't my thing. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure I scored high enough to be in a room playing with blocks. That's how bad I think I did, which I eventually did. I had got those scores. And she was like, no, walk over to Vincennes and take that class. I said, did you hear anything I just said? She's the one that got me in school up until this point. That's not my thing. I think we had a good run, right? I tried some college classes. I can say I got those under my belt. I can use that in an example of leadership. Hey, go to school. I took some classes, but it ain't happening. She said, go over there and talk to him. So I did. I enrolled in this math class, scared as heck, and I just started getting it. Now we had this instructor, Mr. Reedy, who, man, he really broke all this stuff down to us. Every formula for statistics, man. I'm glad that I took his class. So that really helped me as a student. Here's the crazy part. This was my last class that I needed to get my associates. I was stationed at this place called Transient Personnel Unit, TPU in San Diego. And when I signed up for these classes, it was Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We also had command PT, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Now, how that used to go was you would have to go out in the group, in a circle. You do the exercises with the group, and you had the option to go over with, our CMC and go to the gym and do the elliptical or the bike. I don't even think he would let you get on the treadmill. I don't remember. You weren't allowed to lift weights. You would have to do those. Or you would do the stuff in the group and you would just run the loop. If you're familiar with 32nd Street, on the dry side, there's just an up and down loop that you run when you do your run part, your 1.5 miles on the fitness test. You could do one of those. And that way, if you ran the loop, once you finished that 1.5 miles, you were done. You could be done with PT. You can go over to the gym and lift, and then you would walk past him, and he would be mad, like, where you going? Even though you just did the loop. Or in my case, in that situation, I was going to finish up, and I would take this math class. I'm in week 7 of this class, 8-week course. We did our command PT. I ran the loop. I came back, and I went and I changed clothes, and I was getting in my car and I drove off and I went to class. I came back from class and then my chief said, hey, CMC wants to see you. Okay. And I went in there and I saw him. He said, hey, where were you headed during PT? I said, well, I have a math class that I'm taking. He said, that's command PT time. I said, well, CMC, I did the run. He said, I don't think I saw you doing it, which was odd because he was over at the gym. But he said, I don't think I saw you doing it. I said, no, I do it every time. Like I do the group, and then I run a mile and a half because normally before this class, I would just go lift weights afterward. He said, okay, okay. And I went back to the office. I get called back into his office an hour later. He said, I'm gonna need you to drop that class. I said, CMC, I'm in week 7. I'm about to finish my associates. Like, I gotta pay this back. This is week 7. I need you to drop the class. You know we have command PT Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I went back mad, man. And in my head, I was like, I'm done. This is a sign. Because that's normally how I see it. This is a sign. I'm not meant to get this degree. And I talked to my chief, and he went and talked to him. And he just, don't do it again. And I was able to stay in that class. And then fast forward, I continued on. And I used all those scenarios of people not approving my tuition assistance, not approving my Navy Cool, right? Just having issues with it to push me to get on until I became Dr. Michael Brantley. So if anybody's out there trying to stop you from achieving your goals, please don't let them. Even during that moment to where I was ready to give up, you still got to find a way to push through, man, because, yeah, it'll pay off. I promise you it will.